5, Dr. Anthony Fauci is being accused of misleading Americans. It comes after he told the New York Times that he intentionally moved the goalposts on when the country could reach herd immunity to the coronavirus. Fauci now denies that's what he was doing. Watch this.
Why weren't you straight with the American people about this to begin with?
No, actually, Dana, I don't think it can be interpreted as being straight or not. We have to realize that we have to be humble and realize what we don't know. These are pure estimates, and the calculations that I made, 70-75%, it's a range. The range is going to be somewhere between 70 and 85%. The reason I first started saying 70-75, I brought it up to 85. That's not a big leap to go from 75 to 85.
And now Senator Marco Rubio calling out Fauci with this tweet. Dr. Fauci lied about masks in March. Dr. Fauci has been distorting the levels of vaccination needed for herd immunity. It isn't just him. Many in elite bubbles believe the American public doesn't know what's good for them, so they need to be tricked into doing the right thing. Interesting. So let's go to you, Marie. Many Americans have become incredibly frustrated with the changing stories from Dr. Fauci. What say you about Senator Marco Rubio's tweet? Do you believe it? Do they think it was too tough?
Well, if Marco Rubio doesn't trust Dr. Fauci, then maybe he shouldn't have gotten vaccinated like he did before healthcare workers and elderly people. If he was so dubious about the science, then maybe he shouldn't have taken a place at the front of the line to get vaccinated. But the bigger point is one that Dr. Fauci made in that clip that you played. This is a new disease. This is a new virus. We didn't even know about it a year ago, and a brand new vaccine that we are just seeing the first results from. So throughout this pandemic, I think people need to realize that as we learn more, the doctors will tell you what they learn. And as we get new information, they will be upfront with you. And they should be encouraged by lawmakers and people in positions of power to understand that process. A year ago, we had never even heard of COVID-19, and now we know so much more about it. And so that's what Dr. Fauci was talking about. Bottom line is, Sean, everyone should get the vaccine when they're able to. The more people that get it, the more of us are protected.
And listen, Maria, I think that point is well made. But to you, Lisa, if you look at some of the things that Dr. Fauci has talked about, and he got wrong, he was opposed to closing flights to China. He was opposed to lockdowns. He was in favor of school shutdowns. He was in favor of masks, then opposed to masks. And now he got the herd immunity information wrong. So if you look at Dr. Fauci and the kind of power he has to affect people's lives and people's livelihoods, should we be listening to Dr. Fauci and anything he says?
Well, Andy was wrong about the fatality rate as well. He said that it was going to be, I think, something like 1%. Obviously, it's closer to the flu. So or depending on the age group. But so he has been consistently wrong. I think the left picks the wrong heroes. I mean, they really heralded Dr. Fauci despite the fact that he has been consistently wrong about just about everything. And it's not just the data and the changing data. A lot of this information has been there. He just got it wrong. And then further, he has spoken so definitively without any caveats, without any hedging, just so definitively. And his words have consequences, because what we have seen is now we have an economic crisis as a result of some of the decisions that people were made, in part because of the information that he was putting out and the rhetoric he was putting out. We have an education crisis where so many children have fallen behind in schools as well. So we have all of these issues as a result of the decisions that public health officials have made, like Dr. Fauci. So that's my problem, is that he has spoken so definitively when he actually didn't have the information, or the information didn't really back up what he was saying. And it's caused a lot of pain for a lot of Americans.
Good point. Tyrus, I want to talk to you about your beard. I can't, though. We don't have time. What I want to ask you, though, is a lot of Americans are unwilling to take the vaccine, right? There's more and more people who are skeptical about taking vaccines. And if you look at some of our public health officials and some of the misstatements they've made and missteps they've made through the coronavirus pandemic, is that one of the reasons why they don't trust the vaccine?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons, but before we begin that, just so you know, my beard game is strong. That's just the way it works out, symmetrically intact. I think here's the biggest problem. I think we just need to relax a little bit as far as, calling scientists liars because it's something new. We're going to see a lot of changes. We're going to see a lot what we knew in the beginning, we don't know at the end. The problem is when we start politicizing medicine, we end up in situations like this. It's not so much that Dr. Fauci had information, it's just that he decided to change it a little bit so it'd be easier to swallow, saying, oh, we only need 75 if we're getting 50% of the population taking the vaccine. But then he found out it might be 60. So once you start tweaking things like that, you open yourself up to criticism, whereas science, it should just be the hypothesis, which is, and as things go until they are facts. And that's the problem. Once you start playing, well, I can only tell them this because I don't think they can handle it, you're no longer being in science, you're now being political. And I think that's a fine line. And during this climate, it's really hard for guys to watch where, just give us the facts. That's why I encourage everyone, be your own investigative reporter, read everything, go to the sites, educate yourself, because you never know what side of the fence they might be trying to lean or what TV station they are in terms of giving information. So, it's just unfortunate that we're not sticking to science and we're starting to get into personal opinions.
It's called freedom. Make decisions for yourself. Emily, I want to quickly go to you because you're a West Coast girl, and we've seen some of the strictest lockdowns in California. At the same time, we see surging COVID cases in California. Is this the case study that shows that lockdowns don't actually impact the spread of COVID?
Yes, in part. I think the science reflected that to begin with, when in the initial studies we saw that there weren't discernible evidence delineating between outdoor and indoor dining. That's one. I think it's a bigger reflection of the incompetence that has plagued California for decades. And as a lifelong Californian, it breaks my heart to see, for some reason, the skyrocketing statistics that match each other, that for some reason that's the pattern. When you throw a bunch of money at something, it makes the problem worse because it's not backed by a targeted, reasonable reason, right? So we've seen that with homelessness. We've seen that with lockdowns. We've seen that with pensions and budgets and bankruptcy in that state. But unfortunately, to Lisa's point, of course, a hammer will see every problem as a nail. So everything Dr. Fauci says, of course, will be with a biology and science in his view. But it's the local leaders, it's the elected officials that failed to take into account all of the other ramifications, the economics, the starvation of livelihoods that occurred when they were making these decisions. So for me, the blame lies squarely with them.